Welcome, everyone, to another Mutant XPerience podcast, episode 56. Today, with me on the show, a player that I have known for a very long time. We go way back, and really excited to have on the podcast today, True Tech. And so, what up, True Tech?
What up?
So,
thank you for having me. This is awesome.
So, True Tech, just real quickly, just to give everyone an idea of just how far back we go. The last evolution that I personally attended was 2006. And that was when we can get into your history later. Not sure if you've been to previous Evos. If you have, then we've probably been at the same Evos. But as far as just meeting you, that was the first, really and only time that we have ever met.
Yeah.
And that was, it's 2023 now. And so if we do the math, that is 17 years ago.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That was like, my first Evo was 05. I started playing like competitively in 04. Like like everyone grew up playing it on Sega, whatever. But I graduated high school in 04. Didn't know what I was going to do. And so I'd be on the military bases because my parents are both Army. And I would just go take the bus down there and hang out and be at the arcade playing soldiers and Third Strike. And that was just like, for fun, go skateboard, just trying to, hey, I'm out of school. I don't know what's going on. And the Daigo moment happened and it went viral. And my mom actually found it. And she's like, isn't this game you be playing all the time? And because of that, I learned about SRK because of the watermark and I joined SRK. And so I've been competitively playing since 04. But yeah, 05 was my first Evo. Got rocked there, but I met a lot of cool people. And then 06 was after. Like I said, we'll get into the history, but I was talking a lot of young dumb shit on SRK to people. I was writing hard for people I didn't know. I would keep it family friendly, but I was writing so hard for Pyro Lee, like he was my best friend. I didn't know that guy. I don't know him at all. I've never met Pyro. Actually, no, I have met him since. But like briefly, like, hey, I like your stuff. But like, I was writing so hard for this stranger against other strangers online. But 06, like I remember because I think I told you, I think you were my first ever money match. I think you took $10 off me because I was dropping all my combos in pools, and I think we played in pools, and I was so upset that I dropped like every combo, and we ran it back, and then you beat me for $10. And that was the first time I recall meeting you.
You had mentioned that you were basically a military kid.
Yeah. Both my parents are retired Army. They're in the Army for. My dad was in the Army for almost 30 years. My mom was in there for like 20. Originally, I'm from Georgia, Savannah, Georgia. But we moved, as a kid, moved around, lived in Germany for a while when I was a kid, came back. My parents got stationed out here in Colorado, stayed with my grandmother for a year in Georgia while they came out here, got everything settled. We moved out here when I was about 6, and I've been here since. I'll go summers back there, but for all purposes, I am from Colorado. I claim it now as an adult. As a kid, I didn't want to claim it, but as an adult, I claim Colorado as this is where I'm from.
So you've been in Colorado since you were 6?
Yep. My full-time home was in Colorado. We would travel and stuff like that. But full-time home had been in Colorado since I was 6 years old.
You mentioned earlier
36, so it's been 30 years.
Yeah, time flies.
I know. Because they're gonna look at this and be like, "What are you talking about? Time flies. Look at all this gray."
Yeah.
But in my head, I'm like, "Nah, I moved here like 10 years ago."
You had also mentioned that you were playing Third Strike as a kid, and it was actually your mom who showed you Moment 37 and said, "Hey, is this the game that you've been playing?" And so, where exactly were you were you playing the game? Because
I was playing on Fort Carson. So if anyone's like in the Army watching this, you probably Fort Carson is a military base that's out in Colorado Springs. I think there's some. I don't know if he's still here. For anyone who might actually know, Doran 2K from Guilty Gear days, he actually was stationed out here too. I don't know if he still is, but yeah, I was playing on Fort Carson Army base. They had a bowling alley, and the bowling alley had an arcade right off the side that had Third Strike that I would go play. And then there was another place, the PX. Again, if anyone knows about military bases, you know about the PX. The PX Post Exchange. That's like the big. It's like the equivalent of like Walmart for the Army. So there they built a new one, and they had an arcade. And the thing is, the arcade would be open before the actual store would be open. So I've had my mom drop me off. Like, she worked on base, and I went to school on base. So I'd be like, yeah, drop me off here. I'm gonna walk with my friends to the school. She dropped me off on base on there, and I would go to the PX, and I would go into the arcade, and I would play whatever fighting game they had. X-Men versus Street Fighter, Marvel versus Capcom, whatever fighting game they had, I would play, and then I would walk to school, like late, but not late enough to get in trouble. And then high school came, I graduated, and same thing. I had no clue what to do. So I just go on base to go to the bowling alley, because the bowling alley is the one that had Third Strike. The other ones had like all the Marvel games because they look pretty and the soldiers love that. But I wanted to play Yun because Yun was a skateboarder and I was skateboarding and I wore hats. So I was like, I want to play that guy. And so I'll go play Third Strike at the bowling alley, and I'll just play these soldiers and try to, button mash my way to victory. I'm not going to act like I was a prodigy and I had footsies and stuff or anything. I was mashing. I didn't know how to do special moves. I had no motions. I literally, but I knew how to block. That was the one thing I could do. I knew when to block. And that's the only reason I had wins against these soldiers. And they're like, oh, this kid's so good. I just knew how to throw and I knew how to block. And then there'll be times where I'd be like, hey, I'm on base. I didn't have my license yet. Because I just avoided getting my license for a long time for no real reason. And so there'll be times where I was on base when she'd get off work and she would come pick me up, and then she would see what I was playing. And then so she recognized the game when Evo Moment 37 was all over the internet. And she's like I said, she's the one who sent it to me and said, hey, isn't this the game you're playing all the time? And I was like, what is this? What? Oh, you can do that? Oh, what? And then, you go look it up, you go find matches, you find SRK. And here I am since September of 2004 when I signed up for SRK, and I've been part of the scene since. Found the Colorado scene, found the Colorado forums, because back when forums were a thing. Bring forums back, by the way, because no one wants to be looking up hashtags on Twitter. And Discord is just IRC. Someone mentioned that. Discord just IRC with more servers. Like, the further we go, the more we go back. It's just IRC again. And I was like, oh, man, you're so right. It's just IRC again. We got our secret channels. We need forums again, guys. I'm not looking up hashtags anymore.
We have, when I think of FGC forums, I think Dust Loop.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, that's like the first thing that pops to my mind when I think about FGC forums. I think Dust Loop.
Is it the only? No, I guess there's other ones.
No, of course there are.
Tekken's.batu is still around.
Yeah, there's lots of other ones. I'm just saying, like, the first one that comes to mind. Whatever.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, what's still around though? Because SRK is gone. I know it's like Super Combo or whatever, but it's not the same.
No, you're right. It's not the same. I wanted you to talk a little bit more about, because this is really the first time I've ever had a guest whose first exposure to Third Strike was at a military base. Yeah, just the idea of moving around and stuff, and then this bowling alley. It was the bowling alley, and again, just forgive my ignorance. I have no idea how military bases work. But usually, the people who are stationed at the base, where do they live? Do they live in the base, or
it depends? So when you first get there, you're probably gonna live on base, and base is like its own little small town. So you're going to have a Class 6, which is a liquor store. You're going to have a PX or a BX, which is a post exchange or base exchange, depending on the Air Force or Army or whatever. Those are, like I said, like little Walmarts. Sometimes decent-sized Walmarts, actually. But they're going to have everything. They're going to have clothes. They're going to have shoes. They're going to have electronics. stuff like that. And also on base, you don't pay tax, so which is awesome. So like anytime I want to get electronics, I want to get a Switch. When I eventually get a PS5, I literally just either get my parents to take me on base, or I give them the money and they go on base and get it for me because there's no taxes on base. So I would spend, and then when you're a kid, you're dependent till about 23, 24. So as long as you have your ID, you can get on base, no problem, and you can use it. So I would, like, after high school, like, well, not even before high school, as soon as I was old enough to ride the bus. So around high school time, that's where I would spend, because I grew up on base. I wasn't too close with people. Like, I went to school on base from first grade up until I started high school. And so all my friends, like all the people I knew were on base, and then they started going to a different high school. I went to the high school that was close to my house. And so I was always a loner. And so I literally spend my time on my off days with skateboard, and I'd jump on the bus and I'd go on base. And back in the day, they'd have, like, so there was a couple places where you could play games. And one of them was the bowling alley. Another was the PX. There, and at the PX right next to laundromat, they had a little arcade. They had the the reason I think I play as much as I now, because we talked earlier and like I only play Third Strike. I don't even play other games really. I play Third Strike. For me, I would go in there and they had like the SNK caps where you could pick the game, and they had the rainbow buttons. So I came up on that. They had the Border Combat cabinets where the soldiers would literally do the box. The dude would do the fatalities and cover the arm so you couldn't see his fatality, so you didn't know how to do it. There was a dude who legit would bring a box, like literally put a box over his hands and play with the box covering his hands, so you were not allowed to see, because he's like, nah, I figured it out. You got to figure it out yourself, but not tell no one how to do fatalities. And this is before I knew how to get on game FAQs and look it up. And he's like, nah, I figured it out. You got to figure it out yourself. Like, as a kid, anytime they go in there, they're going to go to the liquor store, they're going to walk into the liquor store to get something, I'm going to stay in the arcade and play over here. And so that's kind of all I knew as a kid on the military base, because you couldn't really do too much outside of, like, once you're like 11, 12, you're like, I feel like I'm too old for this after school care stuff. I don't want to be here. So I'm going to walk over to the PX after school, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to find every quarter in the house that I can find. I'm going to ask my parents for $5, and $5 will last you all day at the arcade if you're okay. So I'm going to get $5 and I'm going to get some change, and I would just be either at the bowling alley or the PX. They eventually, like I said, make the new PX. They had the big arcade in there. Had first time I ever saw Marvel vs. Capcom 1. I don't think I ever saw MVC2 in arcade, but Marvel vs. Capcom 1, figured out how to get Shadow Lady. Like, I was a lot, like, skateboarding and arcade games were literally all my hobbies as a kid. And like, because I had nothing else to do. Like, once you're on a military base as a kid, once you're out of school and you're just a little too old for the child care stuff, like, where you're like, I'm not coming in here to make ice cream and puzzles and stuff. Like, I'm either gonna play basketball. If I don't feel like playing basketball, I'm just like, when am I gonna, like, literally, I'm like, all I did was play video games. So I would just leave. I'll go walk to PX, get you a honey bun and then I'd be in the arcade with all these grown ass men playing Street Fighter. And like I said, I'm not going to be like, hey, well, as a kid, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I didn't know no combos. I knew Magic series and Marvel. That's why I liked it, because I could just go bop, 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 bop. But Street Fighter, I was like, hey, that kid skateboards and he has a hat. I'm going to learn how to play Yun. And that's literally, if I didn't have those hobbies, who knows where I'd be right now? Because that's literally what led to it. I just happened to like that character and everything that has come since then in the last almost, I turned 37 in July, so the last like almost 20 years.
So how popular were fighting games on at least at the military base that you lived in?
Somewhat popular. Like, it wasn't like every day. It wasn't like, every day I could go after school and I could get a match or anything like that. But like, popular enough that I could play some people, and that they always kept cabinets there. So it was definitely popular enough that they always had the new fighting game cabinets there. And they had them in multiple places on base. So I could, like I said, go to the PX, and they had all the SNK games where you could, pick had the 4, you could play some Samurai Showdown, you could play baseball, or you could play KOF or whatever. And then they had they kept the newest Mortal Kombat cabinets in there. They kept, like I said, Third Strike wasn't. I don't know how popular what Third Strike was when it came out in arcade, like how where it was everywhere. But I know for like they had Third Strike there, like, and that was the first time I had seen Third Strike. I didn't even know Street Fighter 3 had come out when I saw it, and I was like, oh wow, like Street Fighter 3. I didn't even know this game was out, and they had Third Strike. But it was popular enough that they kept those cabinets on top of the racing games and the motorcycle games and the House of the Dead and everything else. They also always had the different fighting games there. So like I've just growing up there, I will always see, okay, hey, the new Mortal Kombat's out because it's on the cabinet right there. Mortal Kombat 2 is there. They would keep. I think they had a double impact cabinet, but it was, Third Strike was there. So I was like, well, I'm going to play that when this one's here. So, but I think they did have double impact there as well. But yeah, like it was fairly popular, and I would not enough to like say like play every day. Like I know I'm going to fight these people all the time. Like you hear about the stories about Chinatown and FFA and everything. Like it wasn't like that, but it was to the point where I would see people regularly and people would actually play. It wouldn't be like, hey, you jumped on, I'm out of here. It would be, I'm going to play a few matches. Okay, I got beat. Now I'm out type of thing. But it was a regular thing where I would see people and we'd play. And occasionally there'd be like a really small tournament, like, 15 people maybe would come and like, hey, we got enough people who wants to run something, that type of thing. But it wasn't it wasn't like, you hear like, hey, I just happened to go to the arcade. I just happened to go to golf to Sunny Hill. And now I meet Valle and Choi and all that. It wasn't like that. It was just, these are random soldiers who had some quarters and they saw a kid playing and they thought they could whoop my ass. And then I beat them and then they want to get some revenge and they play for a few. And then maybe we go back and forth and therefore they'll stay for a while, which I didn't realize until later. Hey, I should throw a few games and make him play longer. At first I was like, nah, I'm just trying to embarrass this soldier and make him feel like he lost to a 15-year-old. So I need to go work.
Did they run any tournaments at these military bases?
Occasionally. Like it would be like, hey, we got people here. Everyone wants to play. Who wants to run a tournament? And literally grab a piece of paper, make a bracket. That would be kind of like thing. Because like I said, it's bowling alley. So bowling alley will have their bowling leagues and stuff. So they would have paper brackets just there. So if there was like 10 people, and we're all around the same games because back it's not like now where I say, hey, I main this game. It was just I play whatever games here. I play fighting games, therefore I play Super Turbo and CE and everything else. So it'd be like, hey, everyone's here playing Third Strike. We only got one cabinet. Who wants to run a tournament? $5. And so it would be something like that. Let me go get a bracket from go to the bowling, go to the front, get a bracket, fill out people's names and run a little tournament. And I don't think I've ever won one. I think I did okay. Like I think I got like third or something like that and won. Because again, I know combos and you get the one guy who actually knew how to play for real. And then he just whooped everyone's ass. But yeah, there would be the occasional, like it wouldn't be like, hey, I'm putting the flyer up tournament on Saturday, everyone come through. But it would be, hey, there's enough people here. We got a few people. We're all loving this one game. And Third Strike was, it's Third Strike. It's the reason we're here. And everyone, like people who don't even play for real, they know Third Strike. They like it's part of the culture at this point, the way Street Fighter is. But Third Strike in particular, the music and the visuals, which still hold up to this day, and everything, and just like so, it would be the popular game, especially at that time because it was fairly new, and you couldn't play it on console because the first version of it in console didn't come out. Oh, I mean, unless you had a Dreamcast, which Dreamcast didn't last that long. For people who didn't play fighting games, Dreamcast didn't last that long. If you play CBS2 or Marvel, you're different. But for the world at large, Dreamcast didn't last that long. So the only place we were playing Third Strike was at the arcade until PS2 version came out. So like it would be like, hey, we got 7-8 people, and like, we all want to play. Like, yeah, I'll just like, who wants to run a tournament? Run up front, grab a racket, fill it out, and that would be our tournaments.
What type of cabs were at the bowling alley or
they were
at the
the
military
stand-up
base?
American cabs.
Okay.
the stand-up American cabinets. Those are what we were playing on. That's all I knew coming up was the stand-up American cabinets, hapsticks, the smack it and watch it smooth and go back and forth with the buttons that hurt your fingers because they're slamming them too hard. The concave buttons that hurt your fingers. The classic American cabinet experience is what we were every single cabinet. I had never seen a Japanese cabinet until in real life. Shoot, when like 2000? Wow. Yeah, I'm trying. Like the first time I saw a real life Japanese cabinet was like maybe 2010, 2011, something like that. Like I had been playing for years. Like I had seen like Cigar Bob when he back in the day when he made like that custom cabinet he had. I ended up going to a tournament in Arizona, I think in 06, and I saw that. And that's like the closest thing I had seen to like a Japanese cabinet until like I didn't know sit down cabinets were a thing until years later. I was like, why are we all standing up, bent over? I'm 6'4". So I gotta get the lunge stance, and I'm leaning over like this. I'm like, I could have been sitting down comfortable this entire time. Why did we do this to ourselves? And then I learned about Japanese sticks, and I was like, why would I ever play on American sticks? Why were we doing this to ourselves?
Which was not always the popular take.
It was not for like months.
Yeah, right. The American scene, just in general, I think the American Third Strike scene, it took us a while to move towards the Japanese sticks. But going back to your experience at the military base and finding Third Strike there, roughly how old were you when you started going to these to these arcades and playing these games?
So when I started going to like just arcade just to play, I was about 11 or 12. Is when I was just going there to play. That was when I was old enough to be like able to walk. So like I said, I went to school on base up until high school. So literally, I'd wake up with my parents, wake up with my mom usually. And we all drive on the base. She would drop me off at school. And then I would just, be there until then. There's an after school program that you would go to that was close to the school that you would just walk to. And then I got old enough to be like, hey, I don't want to go to the after school program anymore. I'm not doing the kid stuff anymore. I'm not doing the learn how to crochet or do the little friendship bracelets where you braid the wire or whatever. I'm not doing this anymore. You mind if I hang out after school? I'll go to the PX. I'll go to the Shopette's like the convenience store. So it's the equivalent of a 7-Eleven basically. So like, hey, I'll go to Shopette. I'll go, get some snacks. I'll hang on the playground with my friends, whatever. But I'm not going to this anymore. And I had never gotten in trouble as a kid. Was a good student up until that point. Because I had no choice because I was getting taken to school every day. So yeah, I'm going to be at school every day, and I'm smart enough that I'll just pass a test and everything. That changed in high school once I had a little bit of freedom. But yeah, like 11, 12 was when I was at the point where I was like, hey, I feel like I'm too old to really doing this kid stuff. I don't want to be being watched by babysitters anymore. I'll be, shopped at, whatever, And that's when I started playing more. And then once I hit high school, 13, 14, I started skateboarding. And so a friend of mine had a car and I could get us on base. There's a lot of skate spots on base where a lot of people can't get to because you can't get on base. Or once I'd be by myself and I'd be like, okay, well, I'm gonna get on base, skate a little bit, and then I'm gonna go to arcade. So yeah, about 11, 12 was when I was like, yeah, I'm just these are the things I do. I skateboard, I play fighting games. And that was it. Like, and that was, I don't know why, because like even with arcade, I didn't play the House of the Dead games. I didn't play the racing games. I didn't play like the rhythm games or DDR, anything like that. I literally would only play fighting games.
How old were the players that were playing like specifically Third Strike? I guess we could talk. Maybe.
Looking back on it,
yeah,
they probably
were they like around were they around your age?
No,
were they older, or what was kind of the general, or was it just basically who was there on base?
They were definitely older. I think I was the only kid there. I was the only kid who would come and play. Like that was the only kid who would come and play consistently, not like a little kid who would come, mash some buttons, lose and leave. Like, yeah, we had that. But the only kid who would consistently come back, lose, come back, win, maybe come back. I was the only kid who was consistently coming back to the arcade. Looking back at it, you think they're grown, like they're, oh my God, they're so big. Looking back at it, thinking honestly, and how the military works, they had to be like 21, 22, which now I'm like, they were kids. But as a 14, 15-year-old, I was like, these are grown men. And occasionally there was not a lot, because not enough to make me stop going apparently, but occasionally you get the aggressive older dude who's like coming, who was in, and like, they would be in uniform coming after work or whatever, so they got their camo on, they got the brown shirt, you can see that they're buff because the arm, you got the arms hugging, the biceps are hugging the shirt, and they coming in and they got the boots on, and they look so intimidating. But now that I think about it, they couldn't have been that old. They had to be like 22 at the most, because like the people who had families and stuff weren't coming in. So, but it seems like they were so much older, but they had to be like 20, 21, 22, 23. They have to be the younger guys who didn't have any really establishment on base, because like when you're in the military, you just get sent wherever. And you really, if you have family, you get a little bit more leeway, because they don't want to have to separate the family. So like when both my parents were able to get stationed here, because they had me and they had the family together. They weren't married at the time either. So that's the military does try. Well, I don't know how much it is now, but time. My parents weren't married for a while. They were just together forever. They didn't get married till I was like 15. I never cared, because I'm like, you guys are together. You got me and my sister. Like, they didn't get together. They literally get married till it was like tax reasons, where it's like, okay, it makes sense for us to get married tax wise. And they're coming up on 42 years. So hey, maybe that's the way to do it. But I say as I'm engaged, and she got me this ring for Christmas. So, but yeah, I was definitely the only one who would consistently come. Like, I don't know any other kids my age who were around that would always come back. They just, they just weren't into fighting games. Like, that would be the thing. Like, I saw DDR kids. Like, I'd see kids who come back for DDR all the time and play on that. I'd see, the people that would play House of Dead with the 2 guns. They were so good, they would play both guns and stuff like that. But for fighting games, it was me, and it would be like, I want to say probably like the younger soldiers that got stationed there. Like, hey, I don't know much about Colorado, especially depending on where you're from. Like, I'm from the South originally. I don't know about no mountains in Colorado and stuff. And then they're like, well, the arcade's here. I see people at the arcade. And so that would be kind of how it was. But yeah, I'm trying to think, was there one other guy? I really can't think of anybody. I think like the entire time, like even my friends, the friends I had in school didn't come play fighting games with me. Like, they would be, if I was to stop at the arcade, like maybe occasionally to throw a quarter in, just feeling sorry for me probably, because I'm playing a computer. But I didn't have any friends at a young age who also played fighting games with me. It was just me who play at home on a computer, 3-button Sega Genesis pad, press and start so I can hit kicks and stuff like that. But I never had any like fighting game friends growing up, surprisingly.
Was that a lack of trying, or it just never came up with your friends?
Lack of trying, probably. Like, we had other stuff in common. We had music in common. First time I ever heard DMX was thanks to my friend. I don't know how he got like 99 when DMX first dropped, and when it's Dark and Hell is Hot. I don't know how he got it. We were 11. I don't know how he had the explicit version, and he was letting us listen to it. So we had other things that we had in common, but fighting games, for whatever reason, was the thing that we didn't click. And no, I never tried to be like, hey, come on, go here and fly. Here's a quarter. Because the thing is, as well, I know I'm not sandbagging for you. So even if it was like, here's a quarter, you don't know how to play. I at least, especially in Marvel, because the big PX, they had original PX, which is kind of small. That's where bowling alley was like. So it's part of like, it looks like a little strip mall basically. So the bowling alley is over here on this part of it. The little PX has the laundromat. A lot of people are there because they're soldiers, and a lot of them, they start off living on base. They have barracks, which are pretty much apartments. They're like small apartments. So they have the laundromat, and then until you can get a place off base, depending on how long you've been there. Like the first year, you might have to live on base, make sure you're responsible, you show up on time, etc. And then after that, you can live off base. But laundromat, okay, we're gonna have soldiers there because they're doing the laundry and they're bored. They're gonna come play the SRK and Mortal Kombat stuff there. You're bored. You want to drink. Bowling alleys right there. You're gonna get some beers. Oh hey, Third Strike's there. That's kind of how it went for those. But with my friends, I never really tried to encourage them. But like Third Strike, yeah, we might be even because I'm mashing. I just know how to block and throw. Marvel, I at least know Magic series. So while I don't know how to play for real, I know I can do launcher 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you're like, so yeah, I'm gonna beat you, and I'm not gonna be like, I'm not gonna hold back. Literally say, I'm gonna block until you do something that I know looks, hey, that looks really long. Launcher 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and then I'm gonna super. And now it's just like, you're so good. I don't want to play you. I'm like, okay. And I was like, yeah, I'm good. Yeah, you don't want to play me. And then you play someone for real. I'm like, oh, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. But yeah, I've always been, and also I've always been loner. My sister wasn't born until I was 9, so I was the only child growing up for the most part. Like I have half siblings from my dad's previous marriage, but I was a loner. I didn't care if my friends didn't want to play. I'm like, cool. I'll just be in here with my Walkman and I'll play by myself. Now I would literally just play the computer. Like if no one else was there, I would just sit there and play the computer.
You had said before that there were times when some of the players would get a little saucy, but just for the most part, how was that experience? Like you said, you were really like the only minor.
Yeah, for the most
that was
part,
playing with these dudes, and so like,
yeah,
you know, how was that received?
For the most part, it was kind of cool because you're looked at like a little prodigy or whatever. You're looked at like this wonder. Look at this little kid who's good at this kind of thing. And I think that still is like that to this day. Like when we have a 16-year-old who shows up to tournaments, we're hyped if he's good. Like when we have the younger guys who show up, we're kind of we're hyped if he's good. Like there are some salty people just like, you know, who are upset if they lose to somebody. But to us, like we have a dude, I think he lives at the Springs now. So we'll see what's up with Street Fighter 6. There's a guy, him and his brother. I can't the guy named Slugbug and his brother, and they're both like at the time they're probably like 18 now. But Street Fighter 5 came out, and they were showing up to Aki, and their mom would drop them off in the minivan outside of Aki, and we'd be like, "No, we got them. We'll take care of them," and everything like that, because we're like, "Yeah, look at these little kids playing, and they're good, and they're Now maybe if they're winning, we might be a little bit more upset, but they were like top 8, get like 5th or whatever. So they weren't beaten. Like maybe if they're like winning everything, we might be a little upset. But overall, we were like, yeah, we're just hyped to have the young guys playing. So sometimes we have the dude who's upset that he lost again, and he get a little aggressive. But they'd always be like somebody like, no, get off him, bro. He's a little kid. What are you gonna do? Now I was tall, but again, when you met me, I was always super skinny, so you could tell I was a kid. Like, yeah, I was tall, so it wasn't as crazy for a grown dude to step to me because I was 6 foot in high school already. But you could tell I was real thin. You knew I was a kid by looking how small I was. So there would always be someone who'd be like, nah, don't mess with him. He's a kid. But for the most part, they were kind of hyped that I was as good as I was because they were just like, yeah, look at this little kid who's good at this. And then there would occasionally be like the guy who's good in their group, like the me of their group, and I would go beat him, and then they would get hyped because they could now talk shit to the guy because they couldn't beat him. And so that's kind of how I was able to like not get beat up basically. And I didn't talk shit. I did not talk shit because I didn't know how to talk shit.
Yeah, I wanted that was the one thing I wanted to ask, like how vocal were you when you were playing with these guys? Or were you basically just really quiet and you would just show up, play, and then then dap it up. I don't know, or if you ever got daps, at some point.
Yeah,
but
I would get an occasional dap and stuff like that. It's like, hey, little man, you're cool. But yeah, I didn't talk shit. I was familiar. I did like a little Dan, like thumbs up, like yeah. It's like, oh, that's cool, that kind of thing. But I wasn't talking shit. I didn't know about talking shit back then. Now, like you see me back now, I would be talking hella shit because I'm like, I'm smaller than you, I'm younger than you, I'm better than you. I would be talking so much shit now if I had my mentality as a kid, which is crazy because I don't talk shit now as a grown man. But if I was a kid with my brain, I would be talking so much shit to them if I had. But before, again, introvert, wasn't really talking to strangers like that. I'd be like, yeah, ooh, got it. Ooh, that was close. something like that. That was the most like none of these dudes became friends. None of these dudes became mentors. They were just dudes I saw at the arcade. I don't know. I couldn't tell you no names, nothing. They would be like, like I had like Dragon Claw guy, the guy who played cross-handed. I'd be like him. Box guy, I know Box guy because he'd literally have a perfect box with the hands cut out so you could play. I know Box guy. Like I know, or was it like there would be like I know the description of what there wouldn't be. I couldn't tell you nobody's names the entire time I was there, and I did that from like I said 12 to about 18. And I couldn't tell you one person's name.
That seems to be an experience that a lot of people share growing up in our era. We had our local arcade. In your case, this is a bowling alley in a military base.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to again wrap my head around this because it wasn't just any dudes you were playing with. These were, I mean, there could have been other personnel, right? It didn't necessarily have to be all enlisted, or was it mostly enlisted? Like
it was enlisted for like as far as I can think of. It was for the most part because if you work on base and you're just whatever, you're probably it's like you're coming to work
unless you're into Street Fighter,
Yeah. So you literally like you go to the office, you do your job, and you go home.
Yeah.
So if you're enlisted or and you got to be on base, you got nothing else really to do because you don't know your way around here. You may or may not have a car. You're waiting for your stuff to get there, stuff like that. And this is the 90s and early 2000s. Internet isn't as popping as it was. I don't even know if they had internet on base. I had to ask my parents for the password for the dial-up to get on the internet back then. So I don't even know what are you going to do? You're going to socialize as best you can. You're going to go to the bowling alley's right over there. Shop Et's right next to it. Class 6 is right next to it. Class 6 is your liquor store. So, and again, not only is there no taxes, but typically the liquor is cheaper on base. So, what are you going to do? Hey, I'm going to hit the liquor store, get something. Oh, I hear the bowling alley's popping. You walk by, you can see the door open. You can see the people, because it'll be like 2 doors. It'll be like the doors to like the bowling alley. And then, you can imagine the bowling alley dudes at the counter, everything. And then behind him, the arcade's like one hall. It's like a hallway with cabinets in it. And they had its own door too. And as you walk by, you see people in there. So you can literally see if anyone's in there playing. And if you saw, 5, 6 people, which is all it took, a few people to be there and say, hey, what's going on? And they, come in. And every base everywhere had an arcade at the time. Like I could go... when I spend summers with my grandmother in Georgia, I could go on base on Fort Stewart, and I know there's going to be an arcade in that PX. It may not have everything, but I know it's going to be an arcade. And I know it's going to have at least one fighting game. Might be an SNK game because they're cheap, but there's going to be at least one fighting game in there. And I can, okay, my parents are going to the PX. I don't want anything. I'm going to be in an arcade here, mashing on these buttons. So that was one thing that was cool about the military. No matter where you were, the base is going to have they're going to have some standard stuff. They're going to have a PX. They're going to have a shop at. They're going to have Class 6, and there's going to be an arcade in there. Not the same these days because arcades are pretty much dead. But for a long time, growing, I would go, but okay, hey, my parents are going on base, and adulthood, I would go just check out the arcade just to see what games are in there. Now everything, everyone has consoles and everything now, so they don't have to have them. But for a long time, no matter what base I was going on to, wherever we go, because we go somewhere, we're gonna get on base because why we don't want to pay taxes? Why pay taxes? We want to get some liquor. We want the cheap liquor. Hey, we're visiting family. We're gonna have this barbecue. We're going on base because we want the cheap. We want to get that liquor cheap with no tax. And I already know, hey, you guys going there? I'm gonna be PX is right over here. All right, there's gonna be an arcade in here, and it's gonna have some fighting games. And so I guess that was consistent. So, hey, if you're someone who was young, didn't have a family, and therefore you got moved around every 2-3 years because you enlisted at 18 and they can do what they want with you because you don't have a kid, you don't have a family, so you don't have a reason why you can't go. But one thing's in common, you're going to find a PX, and that PX is going to have an arcade. So there'd be dudes who okay, oh, you guys play Street Fighter? Okay. I just came here from Fort Hood, and I see you guys are playing Street Fighter. I just came here from Fort Stewart. I see you guys are playing Street Fighter. I just got on the basic and I got stationed here. And you guys are playing Street Fighter. Street Fighter was like the common against everything because everyone knew, like said, everything. Like you didn't know anything about it. I don't want to go into this town, especially depending on where the base is at. Especially early Colorado Springs. Colorado Springs is dope now, but there was nothing shit to do here. Like when I was younger, there wasn't all these breweries and restaurants and everything like that. Hiking wasn't popping. Well, you gonna go walk? Okay. Like I love hiking now, but as a kid, I was like, you just don't walk and look at things. Nah, man, come in here, get some beer, play this game, play the Street Fighter.
Like looking back on it, because obviously you have grown as a player, you've gotten much better as a player. But looking back on it, like when you were coming up, was there anyone that was like really nice that you had sort of encountered on a military base? Like someone that was like they should show up to the finale. You know what I mean? Like, is there anyone that you like? Are there any military base Third Strike legends that you?
There was one guy, I never got his name, and he came in. Like I don't know, like he like never came back. So I don't know if he like was just visiting or what. But there was one guy who was kind of short white dude. I remember he did have his uniform on, like shortish white dude. I don't know if he was shaved bald or lost his hair or what, but he looked young in the face, but he's bald. And he came in and he whooped everyone's ass and left. And no one knew who he was. I was like, you know what that guy is? I was like, I can't call if he's like, hey, you should be showing up to Jazzy. Well, maybe he kept playing because he was good like that back then. But he came in and he whooped everyone's ass. And he had like, and I don't even remember who he played. I'm not gonna put a character out there because I think I'll be making it up, like, dredging it up from the memories. But I do remember one time I was at the bowling alley. I remember clearly that part. I remember bowling alley and the hall that goes into the rest of the bowling alley with the cabinet for Third Strike was about 2 cabinets down from that area. And we're all hanging out at that here. Some dudes, got nachos and stuff like that. And I'm playing, and he comes in, puts the quarter up, jumps in, beats me like immediately. Like I was like, oh, okay. Oh, I know you can do that. I know you can do that. I know you can do that. Okay. And then, but then I'm playing. Then the other guys get on, and he beats them just as quickly, and then he just walks away. And so there's like, I don't recall like if it was a weekend or what. No, it couldn't have been a weekend because the people were in uniform. So it had to be like, because like I said, it was after high school and I know what I was doing. I didn't have a job yet. So I just take the bus on the base. And so it had to be like the middle of a week or something like that, where I was just like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna go hang out the arcade. And he came in and he whooped everybody. I don't even know if anyone got around. And then us were like, hey, we're trying to be like, he's like, I gotta go. And he just walks out. Doesn't say nothing. That was like the only words he say. He can say, hey, my name is such. I'll be here. Hey, I'll be back. Hey, I gotta go, but I'll be back. Blah, blah, blah. He's like, yeah, I gotta go. And he just walks off into literally the sunset. Like, cause the door, like he walks outdoors. So you see, tinted, it was all, arcades were always dark. So you don't know what time it is outside. So he opens the door. You just see the sun come in. He walks out and the door closed. And we're just like, I guess we just all suck. And then he just leaves. So I guess I'm assuming that dude actually knew how to play, like he was part of the FGC or something, because he came in, whooped everybody, said, hey, this ain't worth my time, and just dipped. And we're just left there wondering, oh, okay, we don't know how to play this game at all. We thought we were figuring it out. We thought we was getting, we thought we was cool because we knew how to do double fireball and get a super. Like, because that's all we were doing. Didn't no one play no Ganasian. I thought Ganasian was ass for a long time. Bacardi had to force me to play Ganasian. Walter legit was like, you don't pick no other supers in this house. When I come get you, you come over here to play Third Strike, you are not allowed to pick any other supers. You're going to learn Ganasian. And I was like, why? It's whack. Well, I just press buttons again and again. I do no damage. What are you talking about? I ain't no, like, that dude came in and he whooped everybody up and dipped, and we never saw him again. That's the only time where I was like, this guy knows how to play for real. Everyone else was just, hey, I know how to mash a little bit better than you. I know how to find the good button. So like someone knows how to play Chun. Hey, I don't know how to actually play Chun, but I know Fierce is good, so I'm gonna mash this Fierce. That's kind of how we were playing. Like this dude came in, he says, nah, I know Fierce is good, and I know why Fierce is good. I'm gonna use it here, 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 and I'm gonna combo your ass, and then I'm gonna go, and then we're just left kerfluffled.
And you may be right. Maybe that officer or that player was already part of the FGC, and so maybe if someone listens to this podcast, they'll be like,
man,
"Oh, we know who that
hilarious.
person is."
That would be hilarious. Okay, let me think. So Fort Carson. So it's got to be Fort Carson. It had to be about 2002, 2003, I think. So if anyone, and it was a white dude. I can't remember his height, but he was bald, but he didn't look old in the face, so he probably just lost his hair early or something like that. If anyone matches that description and he came to Fort Carson and he remembers whooping everybody's ass, tell him I want my run back.
So before we talk about the FGC, I just wanted to ask you a question about height in general, because you had said that you don't remember this dude's height, but you're 6'4".
I've always been tall, so I don't think about how short other people are.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, this is just normal to me. I've always I didn't get a big growth spurt and suddenly became tall. I've always been tall. And so I'm trying to, in my head, he seemed taller than me, but it could be because he came in and whooped my ass. So he might've been same height as me. I'm going to go ahead and you know what? I can't. He's got to be at least 6 foot. Even if he's not 6 foot, he's 6 foot now, because I can't have some dude who came in was 5'5", came in, whooped all our ass, and just disappeared. Nah, he was at least 6 foot. And if he wasn't, he is now.
All right. So yeah, let's talk a little bit more about your entry into the FGC. How did you first find out about fighting game tournaments?
Yeah. So as I said, my mom, the video was Evo Moment 37 was going viral, and going everywhere. I don't even recall like E-Bomb World or whatever. But yeah, my mom sent me the video and literally emailed it to me. It's like, hey, isn't that game you play all the time? And I clicked the link and it's Evo Moment 37. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And I was like, you can do this? I didn't even know you could parry multiple times. I didn't even know that was a thing. Let alone do that. And I was like, what is this? And everyone's yelling, and you see, because was Steph? Yeah, was it Seth? Yeah, Seth was the one whose voice you hear on that. So you see everyone yelling and I was like, what is this? And it has the SRK watermark. So I go look up SRK. I find the forum, and I see all these people, and I'm like, what is this? And so I go looking around. I see the Third Strike forum. I see the thing, and there's stuff in there. I'm like, oh my goodness. And that's when I found out about MAME and that kind of stuff there. I start playing on PC. I joined SRK. Like I said, September 2004 was when I joined SRK. So Evo Moment was it was either July or August of that year. I don't recall, because I know Evo has kind of moved around a little bit. So I don't know if it was July or August of when that happened, of that 2004. But September 2004, I had joined SRK. Reached out to some people, trying to find out about the Colorado scene. Some dude reached out to me. Some dude, True Karate now. What did he go by? Cameron Buckner. He's the one who reached out to me and said, "Hey, this dude's coming by. He's driving to Colorado. He just came by. You guys should be probably on the same level." That dude was Bacardi. I hit up Bacardi, aka Walter. People probably know, if you don't know, especially East Coast, probably everyone knows Walter, but he's doing everything now with esports. He's working for Evo now. I hit up Walter and I say, hey, I heard you suck like I suck, and we should get some games in. And he said, oh, you heard I suck? So in my head, he said, we're on the same level. So I know I'm not good, because I've now seen what the level of good is. Now that I've been watching videos and I'm on SRK. So he's like, oh, you heard I suck? Okay. What do you want to play? And at the time I didn't have a car. So I take my dad literally dropped me. I didn't have a car and drive. I was 18. I just don't know why. Looking back, I didn't get my license. I was 22. But he dropped me off at the mall, and I had a backpack with a PS2, my little Hori Soul Calibur stick, and the pads, the 20th anniversary pads that came out, where they had the characters on them and it had 6 buttons, which I actually have still a couple of those I still saved a couple. for PS2, and that's what I was playing on because I didn't know how to play on the Japanese stick. And so I go there, literally my whole little setup. Walter comes to the mall, picks me up, and I've told the story a lot. He beat me 200-6 the first time we ever played. 200-6 was the first time we ever played, and then he made me spaghetti, and he became like my first. I credit two people for teaching me like how to play fighting games for real, and it's Walter and King Lotier, who I always credit for really teaching me how to play and taking me under their wing. And he would whoop my ass, and then he'd be like, "Go look on RCK and read up on this match." Like he wouldn't be like, "Hey, do this, do this." And I go. He's like, "Go read up, go watch these matches." And like I said, I didn't know about Ganasian. I was playing Yoo-Hoo. That's when I discovered that Yun was amazing. And I was like, oh. The second time we played, he beat me like 100 to like 4, but I was hyped because I got my first win like 4 games in. And then, so I was even though I won less, I was more excited because I won quicker. And like him and King Lotier like took me under their wing, and those are my two senpais that I credit to this day. Like I see some of the discourse going on Twitter these days, and I'm like, I just sit it out because how I learned was I got my ass whooped until I got better. And then I've always been okay, if you can't take no ass whoopings, then you might not just not be for the FGC. It might not be for you. Like and I have people who I consider underneath me. When my best friend Duran, who if we do like an actual ceremony, will 100% be my best man. So like literally met him in school, and I happened to mention, hey, like we did all the introductions. Hey, I'm Chris, blah blah blah. And my introduction was, hey, I'm Chris. I'm going to Vegas in a week to go play Street Fighter. And that was my intro for the class. And then the next class we had together, he sees me. We had break. I'm in the back. I'm watching Third Strike matches. And he's like, hey, so you play Street Fighter, right? And at the time, I was working at this play and trade. And I was like, yeah, I play Street Fighter, I play fighting games. And he's like, yeah, I play Marvel. I'm like, oh, who's your team? And he said like Wolverine. And I was like, oh, you don't play Marvel. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, okay, I work at play and trade. Come on down. And my boss, as long as the store's clean and everything's stocked, he had no problem with me playing games. So I would literally be, if anyone walked in, I'm at the counter with my stick on top of a phone book, looking at the TV screen up there, and I'm playing whatever game I'm playing. So he comes down and he picks Wolverine, whatever, and I pick MXP. And, I'm not gonna pretend I'm good at Marvel at all, but to him, I'm yipes. To him, in that moment, I'm yipes. I'm like, oh, I'm just doing short, Psylocke, and I can ROM. And that was it. Like I didn't have any hotness. I could ROM because I knew the rhythm. That was it. But to him, he's like, oh my God. And the same thing, that's how I treated him. I just whooped his ass in games until he got decent. And that's how I've always done it. So that was how I got treated. And maybe it may not be the best way, but that's the way I know. And it's kind of, and that's what Walter did for me. Like road trips to Nebraska, road trips to New Mexico, me and Walter flying to Arizona. The only tournament I went 0-2 in because...
Are you referring to Devastation?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only tournament I ever went 0-2 in, because I go there, and I think we're staying with Cigar Bob, and everyone's coming down. Vaille's there, Watson's there, Cabo Fiend is there, and I had not I've talked to these guys on RC, but I'm not like friends with them. We just they know who I am. Watson's really friendly with me and stuff like that. He still calls me Bubble Yun to this day because I like wearing pink and I play Yun. And he's to this day he calls me Bubble Yun and everything. Hit me up on DM to make sure I was good when I talked about having cancer on Twitter, that kind of thing. So we're still cool. Vaille, same thing. Like we always cordial, say hi and kind of thing because I was the young kid on talking shit on RC. But it's my first time playing with these guys. And we play casuals at Cigar Bob's on his cab, and I'm doing pretty well. Like I'm not killing everybody, but I'm holding my own. I'm doing good against him and Watson, Vaille, and Saber and Combo Fiend and stuff like that. So I'm like, oh, okay. Like I'm actually, we get to the arcade. We're playing on P360s. And the cabinet is the cabinet where like the buttons are like an angle, so you're not next to each other like head on. You're like this. I could not find down back. I swear I could not find down back. And so I went 0-2 because I could not block. And I was so sad. because I'm like, this is my first time. All these guys that I've been talking to on the internet, and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna do good. And now, and I was so sad to do that well the day before in casuals on a cabinet with Japanese sticks, yeah. But just head on, and then we get to arcade. I'm like, oh fuck, dude, I can't. Like, I literally was like, I can't block, I can't find down back. Like, there's no gates, and I can't. With 360s, if they're not set perfectly, you don't know where down back is. You got to find it, and I didn't have enough casuals to find it, and I went 0-2. So the whole rest of the time, I'm just recording matches. That's all I was just doing, like recording matches. So like I have like the whole tournament. Anyone wants to go watch some old ST, some old Third Strike, some old Marvel, I have like that whole tournament on my YouTube because I went 0-2. So you want to watch, old Ruin versus Bill Wellman, or Ruin versus Potter, or Combo Fiend versus Watson in Third Strike, or ST Zaza playing Watson and ST. Hey guys, it's all True Tech YouTube because I went 0-2. So I had plenty of time to record videos.
I'm actually glad that you mentioned your experience at Devastation, despite not doing as well as you would hope to do in the actual competition. And you were saying how, because you lost early in the bracket, you basically just started taking footage. And so, yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because you are probably one of the first, I guess you could say, content creators. I guess that's the term that they use now, right? Yeah. So how did you kind of get into that? And because you do have match footage on your YouTube, but then you started also branching out to other games besides Third Strike. Mm-hmm. You started posting tech.
Yeah. It really came about, and it is so funny now to be like considered like that. It's a good thing now, because that is something that they would make fun of me so hard for. Watson especially. Watson would make for having all those matches, because that's how it started. It started by me finding every single match I could online, because this is before YouTube. So before YouTube, you had to go download the matches. You had to go find the website they were hosted at and download MPEGs. And I would go find everything. Like I said, this is how I started learning what we talked about earlier. I started learning how to read hiragana and katakana because I want to know whose match I was downloading, because I would find random Japanese websites, and they would have I would go on 2chan. I would go on 2chan and find search for names and try to find people. I would find KO matches and Nito matches and everyone else. But the thing is, I just love Third Strike, and then like I said, when you have really a couple other people you practice with, you end up learning the whole cast. So I would watch every match I could because I want to know everything about all the characters. So I would find every match. So I would go on 2chan, I would go on Nico, and I would just find every match I could, and I would download them at one. So this is back in, like I said, 04, 05, 06. Storage wasn't cheap, and I had 500 gigs worth of matches. And I was like, every FFA tournament, every download everything. I would have people send me matches. So Cameron, back in Nebraska, he would record matches. He would record matches at Family Fun Arcade or Family Fun Center, because that's the one in Nebraska. He would record them for me, and he would send them. Like the first match tape I had, I paid him like $20. Now I realize that's kind of he still did something. Like, he had to record the matches and send me a tape, so I'm not gonna be like, hey, he scammed me. No, like, he did a service for me. Like, he let me pay him $20. The best dudes I knew at the time, who I was in contact with from the Nebraska guys, and he recorded him, Jamar, Aaron, Simon, all those dudes, and he would record them playing, and he would send me a VHS, and then I would had little Pyro AV or whatever, and I would encode the videos, and that's how I had them. Like, some of them you'll see on my stuff. I have like some old Nebraska Family Fun Center stuff from them, where they sent me matches of him, let's say him, Jamar, Simon, who said all. I got guys who still play now. I see Jamar all the time, even though Jamar plays Chud now. Ew. But Jamar, Simon still playing Ken. He sent me all those matches, and that's how it kind of started, because I didn't know. And then from there, like I said, I would just look and find wherever matches. So for a while there before we had like Fubar and Mopreme due to like spoke Japanese well and knew how to find and would go to Japan and come back and everything. That was the only way I knew how to find matches. So I would find them wherever I could and I would download them. And yeah, so before it became, now it's like, hey, you got this archive, like the Sheed and stuff like that. Before then, but they were making fun of me for like, you need to have all these matches. You need to watch all these matches so you can get good. Like we just go play. And that was like a thing for a while. Like that's something they would make fun of me for having 500 gigs worth of Third Strike matches and like just Third Strike. Just Third Strike. I had 500 gigs worth of Third Strike matches at the time, and that's all I would do was watch Third Strike.
I want to talk a little bit more specifically about the Colorado Third Strike scene.
Mm-hmm.
You said earlier in the podcast you have been in Colorado since you were 6.
Yeah.
And so you have basically seen how the FGC has evolved in Colorado throughout its entire history. But tell me a little bit about Third Strike, because when I listened to your story about getting into the scene, a lot of your interactions, whether they were online through SRK or other programs or people you actually formed relationships with, like Walter and the players in Nebraska. Yeah. It seemed like a lot of the people that were a part of your journey were people that were sort of out of state or were not necessarily. I know Walter was living in Colorado at the time, right?
Yeah, he was living in Colorado at the time, but until he moved back. But yeah.
But yeah, it seemed like, throughout your story, you have a lot of players that are not just from your immediate area, but outside the area. But, and so, what about like the Third Strike players from Colorado? Like, what kind of history do they have here besides yourself?
So the reason that is because we did have a real rivalry back in the day, like a real talking shit. No hands were thrown, but like we were like the way East Coast Marvel was, that's how Colorado Third Strike was. So Colorado Springs is where I live. That's about an hour south of Denver. We're the second biggest city in the state. Denver is an hour north, biggest city in the state. Colorado Springs versus Denver was a real rivalry, like a real.
In Third Strike or just in FGC in general?
Everything. So everything, but Third Strike was the big game because it was like, as you can see, the way it is now, Street Fighter is always been the main game. Like, yeah, we got more entrants for like Strive and stuff like now, but when Street Fighter 6 comes out, we know who's gonna be king, and that's how it was. Street Fighter was always king of the FGC, even though everyone's playing CVS 2 and Marvel 2 and Guilty Gear Reload at the time. Third Strike was king because it was Street Fighter, and that was the newest Street Fighter. So the reason why Denver is not as big here is because we had real like fighting game beef. Like I was trying to beat their ass, and same thing, and we were all talking shit. And so at that time, so like the people who were here, like King Lotier and Walter, that's Stu was here, and that was kind of like pretty much my scene down here. There were some other guys who were here who are now we're real good friends, but at the time it was kind of like they had their clique and they didn't really like Walter at the time, which now that I look back at it, I realized we were just stupid, young, and immature. He was fresh out the army. I think he was on edge too, because Walter was like special forces. So like I think he was also on edge. He's definitely middle down now when we talk. And he said the same thing. He's like, yeah, we were so stupid back then. But we had like we weren't hanging with the other Springs guys who are now like really good friends of mine. Like I shot one of their weddings, and I saw him literally this Monday. We saw Angela Davis do a speech, and hug him and his wife and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, yeah, now it's like I'm gonna be at his house when Street Fighter 6 comes out. I'm gonna be at his house probably like every other weekend, that kind of thing. But at the time, it was like, nah, it's me, it's Walter, it's Mike, and that's it. We don't fuck with nobody else. And that was kind of how it. So, but I will not pretend here. Like, and I was thinking about it because I knew it was coming up, and I was thinking like, where was I in the hierarchy? I've never been the best in Colorado. I've never been like, well, when everyone's actively practicing, I was never undisputed number one at all. I was probably arguably number 2, number 3, but I was never at any point was I ever number 1 in Colorado Springs or Colorado in Third Strike. So we got guys like Smiles. Smiles is really strong in everything he touches, and he's one of those dudes who doesn't really practice that much. He's just naturally good. He would win, and then it's kind of like, you remember when Justin would play in CBS2? He played that shitty ass P Groove team, and then he started wanting to win for real, and so he picked C Groove, and he got like top 8 that Evo. Smiles used to play Hugo, and then Smiles decided that he wanted to start winning, so he picked Ken. And then Smiles went undefeated in tournaments for like a long time. So he's really strong in everything he touches, really strong Tekken player. One tournament we flew out Karasa for play TVC, and it was the year he won Evo at TVC. He flew out because he basically said, "Hey, what would it take for you to come out?" Because TVC was kind of popping. And he literally said, "Hey, get this much money for a pot bonus and I'll fly out." And so we got the money together, and the pot bonus was going to be for first place. He flew out. Smiles beat him in grand finals 2 sets, and he basically had to go home with no money. We had Mace. Mace is to this. He doesn't really play. Like, he's the same thing. He plays old games. He'll play Third Strike, but he doesn't play anything new. So he doesn't really show up. He'll show up for a tournament. Like, he might show up for Jazzy Finale, probably to hang out and stuff like that. There's another dude who was really good. He played really unorthodox. His name was CJE. He played like mostly Dudley, but he played really unorthodox, but he could parry his ass off. And you know how that is when you can he was just really could predict what you're doing. But he played unorthodox, and he's really strong. And he's one of those dudes where you're like, man, if he could be consistent, like if he would just show up, he would be number one. But life is what it is. So he would, like, when he showed up, he would whoop ass. Like, he would beat, like, he was the dude who could hang with Smiles. And I'd be like, man, if he would show up all the time, he'd probably be number one. We had our dude Higgins. Higgins is still around. He's gonna be playing Street Fighter 6, which is cool. I see a lot of old guys are coming back now for Street Fighter 6 because they're liking the system. And I can see, like, it appeals to everybody that got parries, which makes here. We got footsies. Fireballs are strong. Like, I'm looking forward to it. But we see a lot of people come back. Higgins was a Necro player. Stuff. Like, actually, now I'm thinking about, we did have a lot of low tier guys because Mace played Q. And I think like Oro, and Higgins played like Necro. I think he played Oro too. Smiles played Hugo until he wanted to start winning. Then he picked Ken. Hafro is he's in Florida now, but he's going to be moving back soon, so that's dope. We've been talking a bunch recently because he's actually the same age as me, and we were the young kids back then. So it was kind of like me versus him, because it would be like, yeah, this is our young guy who focuses on it. And I will say, at the time, he was definitely better than me. Like, we'll see how it is when we're both playing and we both know what we're doing. But at the time, he was definitely like my goal. Like, I got to beat him. I got to beat Smiles, and I would do okay. I would get typically top 5. So I was not like, but I was never undisputed best in Colorado. Here, even now, like, I would win because people, as the new guys got in and everyone's rusty. As long as I can do good agent, get some gas money off of that. So I've won a few tournaments since then. But like, when everyone's active, I had never been at Third Strike the undisputed best. But we did have a good scene. The rivalry made it so that anytime there's a tournament, I'm trying to whoop their ass. It was never like, now I was trying to embarrass people, bro. That tournament, after I went 0-2 in Arizona, I came back home. We had a tournament. I got third. The next one, Walter ended up winning it. I literally called Watson and be like, "Oh, I just got third. I'm not bad, I promise." But yeah, it was us, our clique versus everybody, and that was really motivating to be like, I don't want to lose, because we're gonna lose, and then we're gonna get on the forums and they're gonna talk shit, and we're gonna talk shit until whenever the next tournament is.
I actually wanted to close out the podcast, Chris, and talk a little bit more about just what you see for yourself in the future, as both a competitor in Third Strike, but just in general, kind of your place in the FGC, whether that be the broader FGC or the Colorado FGC, or just part of the Third Strike scene. Just what does the future hold for you as a Third Strike player and as a member of the FGC?
Oh man, the future. It's hard to say, because every time I think I know what's going to happen, it doesn't. Like, I mentioned earlier, before recording, I have not entered a tournament in now over a year. My last tournament I entered was Winter Showdown in 2022, and I entered Multi Blood and Guilty Gear Strive And that 2021 to 2022 was actually really good for me tournament wise, where I think I every tournament I entered in Strive, I won except for like 2. And Melty Blood, same thing. I won it, but so I go. Chris G's there. Scott Vermillion, who's the best Melty Blood player in the country right now, was there. So I'm so hyped. I choke it up against Chris G, and I think that like literally that's the last thing I did. I was up 0-2 in losers finals, and I choked it up, and he came back, and I don't know if that demoralized me or what, because now I think like I thought I was like, hey, I haven't entered anything in a while. And then I'm like, oh, that's my last memory is me dropping a punish and him coming back 3 straight. But overall, with everything, and I was like, I hadn't played, I hadn't entered, I hadn't wanted to play anything, and I was like, is this how I kind of fade out? And then I was watching some Jazzy stream. I was like, oh, Third Strike, Fightcade's always there. And I jump on Fightcade, and there's always someone to play. And then Street Fighter 6 coming out, and at first I was not with it. And then I started seeing, I actually went and played it with friends. I was like, you know what, let me play it. And then when I played it, I was like, oh, when I actually play Street Fighter 6 and not play this game like it's another game, it's a fun game. And so I'm like, oh, I think I'm still here. But at 4, I was like, oh, maybe I'm just going to be a background guy, photographer guy. I've done kind of all of everything. I've done TO, and I've ran my own tournament series for a while. I ran a team tournament called Bromance for 9 years. My partner that I ran it with moved to Texas, and then I didn't run number 10, but I've been talking about doing Bromance 10 all these years later as like the anniversary. So we'll see. Street Fighter 6 has a 2v2 mode. And, you know, like I said, I run the game I want. So, of course, we're going to run Third Strike. I'm going to run Street Fighter 6, maybe some like stuff like that. But my involvement, I think, is going to be, as a competitor, it will still be there a little bit, because I look back at old matches and I'm like, I'm so much better mentally as a player. And I don't want to just throw that away, because I'm like, no, I can do so much better now that I know better. Head-wise, like, I can't practice as much as I want as I did as a kid. Like, so and that's probably a good thing, because all I did was focus on combos back in the day. I was like, yeah, but I got the great execution. No, you got no neutral, doesn't matter. So I think I'll still compete, but it's not my main goal anymore. At this point now, it's mostly I want to be a supporting role. So, like I said, on the production side, photography wise, stuff like that. And then helping all these guys who are now the new generation of Colorado that are running these tournaments. And like, I'm not ahead of anything anymore. Like, of course, you know, Ryan does a lot, especially. It's so crazy. Like, you would not believe Ryan doesn't live in Colorado the way he does so much for the scene here, flies out for like every tournament, things like that. Is always in the TL chat and everything. And I'm kind of just on the side, like on the sidelines, and I'll help run the bracket, stuff like that, and come document the tournament, stuff like that. And I'll run my occasional thing. Like, I'll probably do a special thing for Bromance. I'll probably do, like, I did a Dragon Ball Z, I did a league where I did a series of tournaments, got till Final 8, and then at Final 8, we did a final bracket. And the winner of that, I flew out to a tournament. So at that time, I think Shogun won, my friend John, and we flew him out to pay for his ticket to fly to Combo Breaker that year. So I want to keep doing stuff like that for the Colorado scene. But yeah, the overall scene, shotbytherobot.com, you need somebody. That'll probably be my contribution to like the overarching FGC as a whole, would be just documenting it when I can, because I'm not in this space where like I'm not coming for that million next year. Like, if it somehow happens to where I'm like, yo, I'm doing really well, and I think, okay, cool. But my goal is I'm not coming for that million next year. But hey, Capcom Cup, you need some production, you need a photographer on there. I'll come for that. But it's not my main focus anymore. Now it's literally like, I'm an old man. I'm engaged. I got some cats. I'm gonna be married. I'm focusing on photography. It's literally my only job right now is freelancing photography. So that's the focus. Whatever, that's number one priority. And then when I have time, I play. And my fiance is really cool about letting me get that time to play. Like, because when we first moved together, and when we went from having separate places, I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna talk to her so she falls asleep. She falls asleep around 10 o'clock. At 10 o'clock, I'm at my place. I'm playing until 1, 2 in the morning. And that was kind of how our lives were before we moved in together. And now it's like I play when I can. I'll do some training modes, stuff like that. If you look at my Twitter, I've been posting Marvel combos just because I haven't played a soul. I haven't played not one person. I'm literally just doing combos for fun. And that's kind of how it is. Like I'm just sitting in the background. I think that's how I see myself in the future, where like occasionally I'm gonna play. I'm gonna try to whip some ass. I'm trying to get these new kids out of here. I'm trying to think of me legendary status. Like, oh my God, True Tech's here. Oh man, we all good. And that's how it was for Guilty Gear Strive in the Colorado Springs. I would show up to singles and I'd be like, oh God, True Tech's here. Oh man, we're going. And that's I want that mystery. I want that Akuma. I want that Akuma legend. Like, oh shit, he might come through. I might fall from the ceiling. I might fall from the sky and come through and whip some ass and then disappear for a little bit. That's how I kind of see myself with the playing just a background for Colorado, because it's just like we don't plan to have kids at all, but just life and doing this. Like once we're done with this, I'm gonna film a video for my YouTube, for my photography channel, and then once I edit that, I'm working on a redo of my website so that I can get more clients coming in for weddings and stuff like. So it's not in the cards to be focused on that, but it's all like it's been proven to me time and time again. Every time where I think, okay, I think this is it. I think I'm done. Something comes along. I thought I was done when Street Fighter 4 came out. Like I had no interest in that game when it came out. No character spoke to me, nothing like that. I was like, oh, is this it? Is this where I'm done? And then I found Viper, and they put Viper out. I was like, oh, she's cool. Then they started adding all these third strike characters to the game, and then I had fun. Marvel 3 came out, and they put Viper in that game, and they put Amaterasu. I have this whole sleeve is Okami. So I was like, oh, well, I'm going to gotta play that. And then each time where I'm like, I'm not feeling it, something happens. Street Fighter 6, no, the way they were advertising the game, it looks like I don't like the system. It doesn't look good. It's all flashy. It's all like, and then they put a Black Ninja in the game. I'm like, well, I can't not play the Black Ninja girl. She looks cool. She's cute. And then I played a game. I was like, oh, she's actually fun. And she's like, so every time I'm like, I think I'm like on the way out, something happens to keep me in. But I think overall, I'm going to be playing like the sidelines. I don't plan to be heading anything up. Like I said, I've been around. I've established enough. I've done everything. I've run tournaments. For a while, I was the only one running tournaments. So I was like, me and my best friend Duran were the only ones who were running stuff in Colorado. We were running big stuff until Aki really came around and became a consistent venue for us. And then after that, like that's where our hub is at. I think I've said it enough times where it hasn't happened to know that the FGC is just that's it for the rest of my life. Like it's always going to be there. Even like like I said, I haven't played in a year, and I'm still like I don't feel like I'm missing out. Like I don't feel like I'm out of sync with everything. I feel like I still know what's happening and going on in the scene. I feel like I know, like I don't know people's names, like the new guys. I don't know their names. Like when we go to tournaments and me and the old guys go there, it's like I don't know who none of these people are. But that kind of thing. But I still know the main players. I still know all the TOs. I know the guy Brandon who owns the venue and stuff like that. And so I think that's kind of where it's going to be. I'm just going to be playing the sidelines and then occasionally swooping in and trying to break some hearts. And that'll be like how I go for like the rest of my life. Because I have one friend who even then I don't even know how I consider like where we're at, but I have one person that I consider a friend who I have not met through fighting games. Like literally one person, and we're not like close. Like when I'm doing the wedding invites and we're thinking about keeping at 25 people, he's not making the list. No offense to him, he's not going to see this because he's not in a fighting game, so it doesn't matter. So Devin's the homie. But I met him through a job. That's like the one person who I consider a friend. Like we text and talk and we do some stuff together again occasionally, where every other single person who is important in my life, every single person who is on my side of the wedding, like if we actually do a ceremony, we're deciding on eloping or doing a ceremony, but every person who's invited, I know them through fighting games. Like if you're not family, who my immediate family only, like my parents and my sister, every single invite I have on my wedding, I met them through fighting games. And so I can't escape it. It is what it is. This is life going forward. And unless I get arthritis and then maybe hey, even then, I can get that Ultra David with the stuff like that where you guys like the disconnect and everything. Like even then, I'll figure it out. But fighting games is the longest thing I've done since I've been 18 years. Like even before then, because as we talked, I was like, damn, I've been playing for a long time. But competitively, since I was 18 years old, and I turned 36 last year. I'm 37 this year, and I'm gonna be entering Jazzy Finale, and I'm gonna be entering the Street Fighter 6 launch tournament. And I'm probably not going to this Evo, but I might go to next Evo because Rick is running it down. Rick wins a good tournament. Because last Evo I went to was 2018. It was not fun. Once I got in the tournament, it was not fun. Whereas all my past Evos were fun, and that's why I was kind of like last time where I was like, might be time to hang it up. And every time that happens, something comes along, and it's like no. So I just gotta give it and be like, hey, I'm gonna get in where I fit in on the production side. I'm gonna help help run some brackets when they need me, and I'm just gonna be the old man. I'm gonna be the old man who occasionally wins the tournament, or at least is strong enough to where they're like, hey, you should play True. You need to learn this matchup. You should play True Tech. You got some questions? Ask True Tech. That's kind of how. Just being the elder statesman. I'm trying my VIA route, basically. I'm gonna be that guy. I'm trying to be the uncle. I'm trying to be the Colorado FGC uncle, where I'm still good enough to whoop some ass and put some respect on my name, but it's not my all anymore because I gotta work on other things. And I think that's how I live the rest of that. I'm trying to be where like, hey, you may not be showing up, but like he's still a presence. And I think that's where I plan to be.
Yeah, the vet.
Yeah, that's vet. It. I just want to be the old uncle who
every scene needs every scene
that ass and then disappear.
Yeah, every scene needs the vet. And I think you like you said, man, you have done almost everything like a lot of us that were in the FGC from the start. Mm-hmm. We have now there's all this specialization, but you were a competitor, you were a content creator, you were a videographer, you were a photographer, you were a community leader, you were an organizer. These are all the things that you can point to as things.
You made my resume sound nice.
FGC. Well, we could talk about that off the stream if you
that sounds
any assistance with things like cover letters and resumes. Or you can go to a AI website if you want. But speaking of AI, I know off stream before we were joking a little bit about how you might need to change the name of your photography company or your photography brand, Shot by the Robot. But, I just want to kind of take this opportunity before we get out of here just to let everyone know, again, anyone that does FGC events, definitely hit up True Tech. But we know one place where True Tech is going to be with his camera and his gear. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be at Jazzy Finale weekend. This June 16th through 18th, True Tech has kindly agreed to shoot the event and document really what is, to me, kind of a culmination of a lot of the things that myself and all the TOs around the world have been working towards, with a lot of bumps and starts and stops due to a lot of things that have happened in the last few years. But now that you are looking back on your history, Chris, I just think back on Jazzy and just the idea that, all of us in the Third Strike scene have been able to keep Jazzy going for over 5 years is really insane. And I can't and I can't think of any better place to mark the occasion than at a venue like Akihabara Arcade.
I'm so excited, man. I'm so excited to be like, this is where not only is it like, because man, so for so long we felt like Colorado had strong players, but we got overlooked. And occasionally we'd have a player who would do really well, but it felt like it felt like it came about that player and not about the scene. Like occasionally, here, so we'd have people who would do well in different games and maybe go to a tournament. Like we have people like Guilty Gear. We have Havoc Noah, and who would get top 8 and stuff. We had a guy in Marvel 3 named Sexy Mike before Chris G. There was Sexy Mike with Morgan, and he go to Evo, went to one Evo, did well, and then didn't come back. But like we'd have the players that we had Colorado Tekken players who would do well, but it felt like Colorado as a scene wouldn't get put on because of that. And so it's so cool to see that the game that I started with is gonna have the finale in my home arcade in my home state, and like I have all this because of the FGC. So like I'm so excited for Jazzy finale. I hope I do okay. I know I'm not gonna win, and that works out for me anyway because I'm gonna be taking photos, and photos are my main priority because I consider, as much as I am a portrait photographer, I go at everything with like a documentary style because I don't know if it's just because that's how I consume photography coming up or what it is. I also think kind of as a Black photographer, you owe something towards the cause, so you got to document something. And the FGC is my community that I'm part of, and documenting that has always been cool. Like when I go back and look at old matches, I'm like, man, that's awesome that this lives on. I would go back and watch old matches before I played, and I was like, yeah, this is cool, this lives on. And these photos I want, like, so I'm super honored. And I cannot wait for Jazzy finale and to document this, and woo. And this is just like it's like I said, the culmination, but also the beginning, because what next is DIA's international, baby. So I mean, next stop is getting some people to come out.
What I tell players, regardless of their skill level, and after listening to what you were talking about with your future and how you see yourself moving forward in the FGC, you clearly, to me, seem like someone who recognizes the importance of storytelling and of sharing experiences. And so what I tell players nowadays in Third Strike, especially in our day and age when everything can be documented, I always tell players, win or lose, just be sick. Like, win or lose, just do sick shit. Like, play smart, play solid, don't give up, try to hit all your stuff. Just play really sick.
We're not gonna remember the win, but we're gonna remember that hype shit you did.
Yes,
we're
exactly.
That carry.
Yes, the respect that the effort and how you actually performed. Not to say that results don't matter. Obviously, they matter. There's going to be a winner at the Jazzy finale, and that's what drives the competition. But I always like to tell players, man, just play sick. If we would just focused on playing really sick, and it's kind of helped me a lot recently. Like, imagine how sick the entire tournament will be, regardless 100%. Of wherever you finish in the bracket. If every game was sick, that's why I love like streaming pools. We want to make sure that we can, highlight those players and give everyone an opportunity to show the audience how sick they can be in Third Strike. Yeah. And I think I always just like to tell players, just play really sick.
That's awesome.
So that the tournament is sick, and then everyone is having a good time, and it's just everything, all of the energy gets lifted, and the hype increases.
And we're gonna have regions, and regions always like Chicago's filling themselves right now. They're doing really well. Texas is gonna be out of here. We're gonna have East Coast. We're gonna have West Coast. We're gonna have some age. We're gonna have some ageism here. We're gonna have us young, old guys versus these young dudes who are down in the Third Strike. But yeah, like what you said, play sick. Think of who our favorite players are, like overall.
Yeah, why were they our favorites? Yes or no, but why did we gravitate towards them? Because they were really sick.
Why do I love RX? Why do I play?
Because he's really sick.
I do. Because he is so dope. Why is my favorite young?
Like if he's in a bracket with Deshikin and Cooney and MOV and Nuki, like RX might not win, but He's
But
gonna
we love
make you
him.
feel him. He's gonna make you feel it. Yeah.
Am I gonna make sure I turn on Sugiyama? 100%.
Yeah.
Am I gonna make sure I watched like what's it like Cootie? Why is Cootie play Dinjin? Because of Frankie 3S. Why did we like that? Because that shit was dope.
Yes.
And those setups were crazy, and you didn't see it coming. And even if he didn't win, like this is So like I said, just play sick, do your stuff. Now we're not saying don't be like, hey, I got the like if you got that combo, yeah, do it. But don't sacrifice a game for that combo. We're not saying that. Don't live for that one moment.
Mm-hmm.
But if you got that in you, and I tell people, do what you practice. Because I have dropped games because I went for the easy combo that I do not practice because I'm like, oh, well, let me just do blah, blah, blah super. And the match is over. And then I drop it because I don't practice blah, blah, blah super. So if this is any advice for anybody, do in game what you practice. If you don't practice the easy stuff, just because someone says, hey, you could just do a super here. But if you don't practice super here and you drop it, and you know, if I had just did my full Grenadian combo, or if I had just did standing medium kick and the super jump cancel, this is Grenadian, and then our Kara pumps, because that's what you practice, and you went for the hot kicks and you don't know the timing because you don't practice it, and you drop the easy combo. You do what you practice and play sick.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah, looking forward to Jazzy finale weekend, Chris. Looking forward to seeing you again there as a competitor, helping us out with documenting the event. It's going to be a really good time. Like you said, it's going to be kind of like a reunion for a lot of people. And yeah, definitely it'll be good to get some games, have a drink, you know, chop it up. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you in a few months.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to see everybody. Come introduce yourself. I'm not mean. I was just talking a little shit, but don't worry, I'm very nice. You see the smile the whole podcast. So come say what's up. And if you know, or just come up because you want your ass whooped. Whatever works.
Spoken like a true vet and OG. All right, well, that's all the time we have for today's episode of the Mutant XPerience podcast. Again, just want to thank you, True Tech, for coming on, and I'll see you all at the next episode. Take care, everyone.
Yeah.